Hi there, in today's video we're going to be looking at Bodmas today, however we're going to be looking at questions that involve powers in them. Now the class, you should have seen some powers, mostly squared and cubed numbers. We're going to have a quick revision of them, but basically we're going to be answering questions still using the Bodmas criteria, okay, but we're going to look at what happens when there's powers involved, okay. So we're going to look at these questions first of all as just a bit of revision, so please, pause the video, copy down the first 4 questions you see on your screen, and then try them if you feel confident. If not, we'll go over them just now, okay, to remind yourself. So it's going to be important for us to remember what squared and cubed numbers are. Okay, so if I start off with this side here, my first question is what is 7 squared? Well, when we square a number, it means we times it by itself. So that means we do 7 times 7. Okay, we need our times tables for that. 7 times 7 would give me the answer 49. So 7 squared would equal 49. Okay, next one would be 9 squared. So again, if it's squared, it means times by itself. Okay, we don't times it by 2, we times it by itself. 9 times 9, we get the answer 81. Okay, so that should be remembering how squared numbers work. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to look at what a cubed number is again. Okay, so cubed number is very similar. It just means we times it by itself 3 times. Okay, so if I've got 3 cubed, it means I'm doing 3 times 3 times another 3. Okay, I've got 3 lots of them there. Okay, now remember, be careful with multiplication. 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, if I times 9 by another 3, that would give me the answer 27. So that's my answer for the first one there. Okay, now 10 cubed again, that means 10 times 10 times 10, and that gives me the answer of 1000. 10 times 10 is 100, times it by another 10, we add another 0, we get 1000. Okay, so squared and cubed numbers work like that. We're going to need to use them as part of our questions today. Okay, so let's have a look at how we can answer some questions, but I'm going to remind us what Bodmas is. Okay, so at the top of your page, or when you try these worksheets for these questions, it's normally a good idea to write down what Bodmas is. Okay, so Bodmas, remember B stands for brackets, O stands for order, and that means powers. Okay, we're going to look at powers. So what we do is if there's any brackets, we have to deal with the brackets first. If there's any powers, we deal with them second. Then what we do is we look at if there's any divide and multiplication, so we do them at the same time. And then at the end, we then look to see if there's any add or subtract. So they're the order which we do this. Okay, we'll keep brackets doing first, we do any power second, then if there's any division, multiplication, add or subtract. Now make sure when you're doing your working that you do one at a time. Okay, don't go ahead and try and do it all in one go. Show your working like I've done. So I'm going to get you to copy down these 3 questions here, and you're going to see all these questions do involve powers. Some involve brackets, some of them don't, some involve division, some involve multiplication, add, subtract. So we're going to look at which ones we do first here. Okay, so copy these questions down for me. Okay, so pause the video, copy them down. Okay, so the first question, we've got 6 squared divided by 9 plus 3. So the first thing I need to do, think of Bodmas, well there's no brackets, so I don't need to worry about brackets. But what I need to do is I need to deal with the power. Okay, that's the first thing I need to look at if there's no brackets. If there's any powers, let's work out what those powers are. Okay, so 6 squared, that means 6 times 6. Okay, and 6 times 6 would give me 36. So what this question becomes is now 36 divided by 9, then we add 3. Okay, and now Bodmas, I need to work out, do I divide or do I add first? Well, we do the divide bit first here. So 36 divided by 9 is 4, add 3, 4 plus 3 gives me the answer 7. Okay, so there's an example where we had to do power first, then we had to divide because divide comes before add, and then we added on our 3 to get our final answer. Okay, so make sure you copy that down. That's the working I expect to see with a class when they're trying these questions. Okay, work out what those powers are, then deal with them, put them back in the question, then deal with what you have to deal with one at a time. Okay, so we'll look at the second question, and we have a bracket, so I've got to deal with the bracket first. Okay, so I'm going to have to deal with that. Inside the bracket, that's 14 take away 10, so that's going to be 3 cubed. Okay, so I've not dealt with that yet. Multiply 14 take away 10. 14 take away 4, sorry, is 10. My apologies. 14 take away 4 is 10. So now I need to deal with the cubed part. Okay, so if I remember 3 cubed, well that means 3 times 3 times 3, which gives me 27. We've seen that above. Therefore, my question becomes 27 multiplied by 10, and we get the answer 270 there. Okay, so we had to deal with the bracket first before we could then deal with the power, then we had a multiplication left. Okay, we'll look at the last question now, and you'll see I've got a few powers now, but I also have a bracket, and remember, when we have brackets we deal with them first, so I'm just dealing with what's inside the bracket first. Okay, so 6 take away 2 is 4, so that's going to give me a 4 in the bracket. I still need to make sure that this bracket is squared, okay, because I had to square this bracket, the number inside here. I got the number 4, so that's going to be 4 squared divided by 2 cubed. Okay, so there's two powers we need to work out. The powers we deal with at the same time, so we can do this in one go. So 4 squared, that's 4 times 4, which is 16, so I'm going to get a 16 there. 2 cubed, that's going to be 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So my question becomes 4 squared, well that was 16, take away 2 cubed, that's 8, sorry, divided by 2 cubed, which is 8, 16 divided by 8 gives me the answer 2. Okay, so there's 3 examples for you to copy down and write down the examples when powers are used in Bodmas, and you're going to see some questions have powers today. Remember, if there's any brackets, deal with them first. If there's no brackets, then go to the powers. Okay, then the division and multiplication happens for the addition and subtraction. Okay, thanks for listening.